What's good, everybody? Ross Jackson here, host of the Locked On Saints podcast, and we're here to talk about easiest dub in the New Orleans Saints 2021 NFL schedule. And as much as I'd love to call out one of these division rivals like the Carolina Panthers, who are in the midst of retooling, the Atlanta Falcons, who still might decide to play defense at some point, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, let's be real for a little bit. Those are division rivals. You never know the way that those games are going to go, but you can take a look at the Week 14 matchup against the New York Jets. It does come after a tough stretch of games, and it's in winter in the Meadowlands, but it's a first-year quarterback, first-year head coach there. A lot of opportunity for this team to be able to take advantage of what New York is still struggling to be able to put together. So really, I look at this as a Sean Payton versus Robert Saleh matchup. I'll take Sean Payton there every day.
Gino Camilleri from the Locked On Eagles podcast. As we have known, the NFL schedules have been released here within the last 15 minutes or so. The Philadelphia Eagles have a tough stretch in the beginning, starting off the season, opening against Atlanta. When you look at this roster, even though they do have the easiest strength of schedule, how it is set up, it doesn't make it too easy for the Birds to get some wins. Although, if I were to have to choose one win, I would say that game against the Jets at the Meadowlands, where you are going there back-to-back weeks on a stretch where you don't have to leave the East Coast and even get on a flight. This team under Nick Sirianni, I believe, is going to go into the bye hungry, and getting that win against the Jets, especially for Howie Roseman, somebody who wants to one-up his former predecessor in Joe Douglas. I believe the Eagles going into the Meadowlands 2 weeks in a row, playing the New York Jets, if I had to pick a win to circle for this team, it would be that game in the Meadowlands against the New York Jets.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Drugemeyer here at Locked On Chargers podcast, and the NFL has released its schedule. The 2021 schedule has been released today, and the Chargers know who they're going to play and where they're going to play their games at. And, of course, all these teams are professional teams, but some of these games will be easier than others. And I think the easiest game on this schedule is going to Philadelphia to play the 4-11-1 Eagles. Obviously, this is a new year with a new team, a new head coach for the Eagles, but they still have Jalen Hurts at quarterback, and I think there's a lot of development that he needs to do. He has a tendency to hold on to the ball a little bit too long and get sacked, as well as run and escape a little bit too early. I think the pocket presence needs a little bit of help, and I think that is going to be exploited by Brandon Staley and Ronaldo Hill. In this matchup, I think they're going to create some chaos and some confusion and make things very difficult. And I also think the Chargers offense matches up very well. They have a lot of explosive athletes and playmakers. And the 19th ranked defense from last year did not get too much improvements in the draft. So I think this is going to be a tough game for the Eagles and an easy win for the Chargers. But for more on the Chargers and the rest of their 2021 schedule, please check out Locked On Chargers, your team every day.
Jeff Lloyd again, host of the Locked On Browns podcast, looking at the Browns 2021 NFL schedule, being asked what you think is the biggest, easiest W on this schedule. I'm going to give you two. Week 2, Houston Texans, the Browns home opener. Right now, nobody knows the status of Deshaun Watson, whether or not he'll be able to play in this game. Who knows if he'll be able to play in the 2021 NFL season. Also, the Browns will be facing at home this year the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions made some nice moves as far as laying some bricks, building some foundation, but this team is just lacking in playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Jared Goff was brought in, and Jared Goff is not a terrible quarterback, but there are certainly skill positions that need addressing for the Lions in the future. So if you want the two easiest wins possibly on the Browns schedule this year, the Houston Texans and the Detroit Lions. The Locked On Browns podcast, available on iTunes, Spotify, and of course, the brand new Odyssey app.
So with the NFL releasing their schedule for this upcoming season, it's kind of hard to determine for Houston who will be their easiest win. When I take into account that Houston has the third hardest schedule projected as of right now, I can point to the Jacksonville Jaguars simply because they have a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback in Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer. But for me personally, when I look around the league and I look at the previous season, and I look at the fact that the Jets were in the bottom half of the defensive teams last season, the worst offensive team last season, it's kind of easier now. I believe the easiest win for Houston that will presumably be led by Tyrod Taylor and new head coach David Culley will come against another new head coach in New York, the New York Jets.
Tyler Rowland here, host of the Locked On Titans podcast, breaking down the 2021 Tennessee Titans regular season schedule. Which game will be the easiest victory for the Titans in 2021? There are two options in my opinion. Both of them are against division rivals, and both games come at home for the Tennessee Titans. I did consider a Week 14 matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off a Week 13 bye, as head coach Mike Vrabel is 3-0 after a bye week as Tennessee Titans head coach. But ultimately, the game I went with is a Week 11 home game against the Houston Texans. And the reason for that is the Jacksonville Jaguars, while I expect them to struggle this year, will at least be trying to win football games. If the Houston Texans are smart, they will not be, and they'll be trying to secure the number one pick in next year's draft. So by my count, based on the talent that should be on either team and the mindset of either team, the Titans should have an easier victory in Week 11 at home against division rival Houston Texans.
Happy NFL schedule release day, everyone. I'm Patricia Traina, host of the Locked On Giants podcast, and with the New York Giants schedule finally released, let's take a look at where Big Blue should be able to come away with a quote-unquote easy win. Right off the bat, the Giants have a golden opportunity to welcome back their fans to MetLife Stadium in grand fashion when they take on the Denver Broncos in Week 1. Now, Denver is coming off a losing season last year, and they still have a lot of questions that they need to answer. Specifically, who's going to be their quarterback? Is it going to be Drew Lock? Is it going to be Teddy Bridgewater? Or will the Broncos eventually land Aaron Rodgers in a trade from Green Bay? But on a bigger scale, this game also marks the return of former Giants head coach Pat Shurmur, who is now the offensive coordinator of the Broncos. Now, Giant fans know all too well about Shurmur as a play caller and the frustrations that he created with some of his decisions. And Bronco fans have experienced some of those frustrations last year as well, from what I understand. So it's going to be interesting to see if Shurmur can finally adapt and better put to use the talent that he has to get more out of his offense. For more on the New York Giants, visit the Locked On Giants podcast. We're on the air Monday through Friday here on the Locked On NFL Network.
The Baltimore Ravens 2021 schedule is officially released. This is Kevin Ostreicher of the Locked On Ravens podcast. Baltimore has the second hardest schedule in the league in 2021, but there are opportunities for the Ravens to potentially pick up easy wins. Now, in the NFL, no win is an easy one and no opponent can be overlooked, but maybe looking at games like the Detroit Lions or the Cincinnati Bengals, those could be games early on in the season that the Ravens can chalk up as a win. But again, no overlooking opponents in the NFL because that can get teams into trouble. For more on the Ravens and their full 2021 schedule, be sure to tune into the Locked On Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
I'm your boy Q, host of the Locked On Raiders podcast, here to break down or continue to break down the Raiders 2021 NFL schedule. Already talked about the toughest stretch, kind of looked at the whole schedule and thought that was the toughest stretch, but I did talk about all the games ahead of the bye. Well, coming out of the bye week, I feel like the Raiders have their best opportunity maybe to even win a couple games. And coming out of the bye, their Week 9 game is going to be at the Giants. So it's going to be an early kickoff for them in New York against the Giants. You're not too sure what that Giants team is going to be. So that is a game I feel like, okay, they're well rested. They're on the road, but it's okay. They can probably get a W there. Feel pretty good about that. Return home for a Sunday night game against the Chiefs. That's going to be a challenge, no doubt about it. Great team in the Kansas City Chiefs. And then they follow that up with a home game against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I feel like they have an opportunity to, at the very least, bracket 2 wins, 2 out of 3 wins right there. Giants, and then they got the Chiefs in the middle, and they close things out with the Bengals. So I feel like those couple games right there are the games that you can look at and say there's a good opportunity for a couple easy wins for the Raiders. And I say easy, but it's the NFL. There's no game that's easy. So that's what I got for the easiest stretch as far as I'm concerned of the Raiders schedule in 2021. For more breakdowns on the Raiders schedule, continue to pay attention to what we're doing here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your boy Q for the Locked On Raiders podcast.
All right, everybody. So the Vikings schedule is out, and one of the more interesting stretches will come in October. After a fairly difficult stretch, they'll get 2 really easy games into the bye. They get to play at Carolina, who are starting Sam Darnold on purpose, and apparently they don't even practice in the red zone, which is amazing. And then they get the Detroit Lions at home, who are also similarly inexplicably starting Jared Goff on purpose. That should be a nice, easy stretch to get a little bit of momentum going into their bye week.
Joe Marino of Locked On Bills here to discuss the 2021 schedule and find the game that looks the most favorable for the Buffalo Bills to claim as a victory. And while I don't think there are any givens in the NFL and that any team can beat any team on any given Sunday, the Houston Texans game at home in Week 4 surely looks favorable for the Buffalo Bills. This Texans team is very much in transition, a new head coach in David Culley, and a lot of question marks about the quarterback position, a ton of turnover on that roster, and I think collectively expectations are low for the Houston Texans this year, and them coming to Buffalo is certainly a daunting task for the Houston Texans, a game that I think the Bills should be able to control. Obviously, the Bills, after that Houston game, they traveled to the Kansas City Chiefs in a pivotal game, and the Bills can look at that Houston game as a get-right game to make sure that they are all hands on deck for a big conference showdown with the Kansas City Chiefs. So give me a Bills win over the Houston Texans in Week 4 as what I think is the most obvious win on the schedule. For more analysis on the Buffalo Bills schedule, be sure to check out the Locked On Bills podcast.
Alex Clancy Bulbrock from Locked On Cardinals here, answering a very simple question with not so simple of an answer. What's the easiest W on the schedule for the Arizona Cardinals during the 2021 season? We went back and forth, Bo and I did. There's a couple, but in our opinion, the Cardinals are going to have to wait till Week 15 to play their easiest game on the road against Detroit. Bo, what were some receiving votes?
Yeah, there were a couple layups that you see on their schedule, and you can do this before it's even kind of slotted, but the 2021 schedule is out, and you've got a Week 3 game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were a one-win team. I don't care what you say about Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence. That should be a W for the Cardinals. You've got the Houston Texans, October 24th. It's J.J. Watt going against this team that is just so poorly constructed. Those were a couple of the other options, but it's a team, the Detroit Lions, that the Arizona Cardinals haven't beaten in their last 4 tries. Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray have never beaten the Lions. They're 0-1-1. The Arizona Cardinals, though, they absolutely have to take care of business against the Lions. Dan Campbell might win press conferences. He's not going to win a lot of games in 2021. That game against the Lions in December should be an easiest W for the Arizona Cardinals this season out.
By all accounts, the Arizona Cardinals kneecaps should be fully intact after Week 15 on the road against the Detroit Lions. Check out the rest of our reactions, Bo Brock and myself, tomorrow morning on Locked On Cardinals live stream on Twitter.
The Falcons 2021 schedule is officially out. I'm Aaron Freeman with Locked On Falcons. Heading into the season, we know that the Falcons have the 3rd weakest schedule based off of 2020 records, which means trying to figure out which is the easiest win on their 2021 schedule. There is no shortage of candidates. Probably the weakest opponent and most favorable matchup is the Falcons' home game against the New York Jets in Week 5. However, that home game will be played in London, and travel and jet lag could make that outcome a little bit more unpredictable than it should be. Beyond that, their next easiest win might be their Week 16 matchup against the Detroit Lions the day after Christmas. Not only are the Lions beginning a bit of a rebuild, but that game is sandwiched between road games against the 49ers and Bills, meaning that the Falcons almost have to come away with a W against the Lions since wins might be hard to come by after Thanksgiving. For more on the Atlanta Falcons 2021 outlook, follow Locked On Falcons wherever you get your podcasts.